Why Dax Shepard turned CHiPS into an R-rated comedy. Dax Shepard wrote, directed, and co-stars, alongside Michael Pea, in the new filmic reboot of the 70s-80s era television buddy cop program CHiPS, but don't expect a slavish remake. I didn't feel a ton of responsibility to be loyal to the original show, Shepard says to Vanity Fair from behind the wheel of his hot rod Mercedes-Benz E63 station wagon. It was so of its time, and it was a family-friendly, primetime network TV show. So I knew there was no way that a current R-rated movie audience was going to like that. In fact, the original show's stars, Eric Estrada and Larry Wilcox, have both unabashedly tweeted or retweeted some unflattering things about the film for exactly this reason, labeling, or endorsing, it as pure trash and sick crap and accusing it of ruining the brands of both CHiPS and the California Highway Patrol itself. Estrada, though, has a cameo in the new film. But Shepard didn't worry about this backlash, as he felt that he already had the blessing of the show's higher power. One of the producers on the movie is Rick Rossner, who created the show. Shepard says, "The first time I emailed him the R-rated version of the script, I thought, oh my god, he's gonna call me and say, what have you done for this thing I've created? But weirdly, he liked it the most out of everybody. So once he was on board, I really didn't sweat it too much." Growing up in the frigid Midwest during the era in which the television program originally aired, Shepard was compelled by the series' vehicular and geographic delights. So he stayed true to that in his update. It was shitty 8 months of the year in Detroit. It was cold and dark, and I would turn on this show and for an hour, it was California and sunshine and motorcycles. So that part of it was really appealing, he says. I didn't really follow the plot lines all that well. I was 2 when it came out, and I think I was 8 when it went off the air. As a man slightly older than Shepard who watched the original show in the same suburban Motown context, I can attest that he was not missing much in the way of narrative subtext. Shepard also identified more with Ponk, the wild-card Estrada character in the Odd Couple buddy cop duo, than with John, the more straight-laced character originated by Wilcox, and the one he plays in the movie. "My brother and I, we had big wheels we would ride, and we were always playing Bo and Luke Duke of Dukes of Hazzard fame. But we both wanted to be Bo Duke. Or we'd play John and Ponk, but we both wanted to be Ponk." And, unlike many young boys, he never fantasized about becoming a cop when he grew up. "My dad drove like an asshole, like I do, and I don't think he loved law enforcement," Shepard says. "And I have a real hard time with authority. My main influence as a kid was Smokey and the Bandit. I wanted to be Burt Reynolds and drive a Trans Am around and jump it and run from the cops. That was far more what I fantasized about." That fantasy certainly came true while making this movie, as Shepard, a true gearhead, did many of his character's stunts himself. "Though things didn't always go according to plan, I crashed a few times, which is never your goal in front of your film crew," Shepard says. Doing the front endo on the cop bike riding only on the front wheel was more of a handful than I was expecting. Also, driving on the beach with a 70-pound camera slung out over the handlebars was harder than I expected. So I definitely went down a few times. Falling off a cop motorcycle repeatedly on set was hardly the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to Shepard on a bike. I drove a Honda Spree scooter when I was 12 years old. And I worked at a big boy restaurant, Shepard admits. I would ride it to work in the wintertime, which is already challenging enough. The whole kitchen staff at that big boy was all work release staff, so they were all guys in prison that cooked food for their 8 hours a day. And a couple of them, when emptying the grease trap, covered my whole seat in lard. And it was wintertime. So it was virtually impossible to ride the thing home. I looked ridiculous. I was on the shoulder of the road going like 3 miles an hour and sliding off it all the time. Shepard sighs at the humiliating memory. You need a real strong degreaser to get animal fat off of anything, which I did not have on my person at age 12.